welcome, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to this week's edition of Pete and Joe, presented by the OBR Streaming Network. And if you are not familiar with the OBR Streaming Network or OBR.com, make sure you get over there, become a subscriber, get all the hard-hitting action and news from Berea. And be sure to check out the likes of Pete Smith, Fred Greetham, Lade Atkins, all the greats. Pete Smith, my man, how are you, my good sir?
Doing all right. When last we left, the Cavs were up 13. Mm-hmm. They're out of the playoffs now, so that was pretty good. Pretty good.
That was a hell of a week right there, Pete. That's what that was. Now, I just to touch on that really quickly, and just a little story for the chat and anybody viewing. I had a bad feeling when we got off the show last Monday. And Pete even said, he's like, they're up 13. So if anything bad happens, it's our fault. So I turn on the game, and of course, Jalen Brunson just boom, 2 quick buckets. And I'm like, you know what? I got this horrible Cleveland pit in my stomach that is all too familiar. I jumped on my DraftKings app. I put $10 on the Knicks, and I won $170 because of it, Pete. So I took my pain and I turned it into happiness a little bit, you know?
Yeah, not bad.
It's not bad at all. All right, well, let's go over it, man. So we got OTAs going. We've got some NFL news as well. We've got some good news, and we've got some bad news. We'll go bad news first. Our boy Josh Jacobs, the Alabama alum from 2019, is in some pretty serious stuff. He's got at least 1 felony and 4 misdemeanor counts against him, domestic stuff, strangulation, horrible stuff. It's very, very early, and we don't know the facts, but he has been arrested. This is real deal, folks. So that's going to be an obvious curveball for the Green Bay Packers. And then, what's his name? Chargers safety, Derwin James, 3 years, $75 million. Whew! That's a jump on that safety money, Pete.
Yeah, both of those stories are bad news. The Josh Jacobs thing is terrifying if true, obviously. But the other part of it is it's the scariest time of the season. It is the off season. We've got like another 2 weeks until they go on that break. And you just sit there and you go the entire offseason, fingers crossed, hoping nobody does anything stupid. And Josh Jacobs has sort of already opened up that gate of potentially stupid things that keeps teams up at night. Like that is, and fan bases. Obviously that's awful. The other thing that's awful is Derwin James signing for 3 years, $75 million. Great for Derwin James. I hate it because I want to see Grant Delpit get locked up, and this.
That's a tough deal right there.
Not that I think Grant Delpit's going to get $25 million a year, but just
Derwin James is not twice the player Grant Delpit is. So if I'm Grant Delpit, I'm getting closer to 25 than I am to 15. Personally.
Yeah, which is basically what he was getting before. They got in early last time, and it paid off for them. But I think that's a smart contract extension for them to seek out. So even if it's like 20, I mean that's. It could be worth it, but like that's still a lot of money to pay safety. So that's the only part where I sit there and go, man, I wish the Browns would have gotten this done already. I'm hopeful they will get it done before training camp, but when this money's being paid out, it just everybody's contract demands go up, and when you're next in line, that just allows you to get more money. So we'll see how that works out. But ultimately, I really hope they get a deal with Delpit. I think it makes sense for both sides.
Agreed. I'm a big Grant Delpit fan. Phil, Chef Brian in the chat. What's up, boys? Welcome. Appreciate you guys being here. So I'll tell you what's interesting about that, Pete, is that's clearly going to make the Grant Delpit negotiation a little trickier, right? Could we possibly see, depending on how Emmanuel McNeil-Warren impacts the game, would they ultimately go the cheaper route and keep Ronnie Hickman over Delpit long-term just for the financial feasibility of it? Or do you think with Watson's contract coming off the books, we should have the room to make that happen?
Well, obviously there's a leadership component, which I think Delpit fits. I think he's really good in general. But the other part is the landscape of the NFL has changed in a way that makes Delpit more valuable. His best skill set right now in part because the Browns have had to use him this way. He's so good at covering tight ends.
Yeah.
The Browns are super reliant on it. Well, what's the NFL doing? What did we watch a whole bunch of teams do day 2 of the draft? They all ran up and drafted a whole bunch of tight ends, and you're going to have to figure out a way to cover all these guys. If teams follow suit and go, well, 13 personnel, this is the new fad, and we're all leaning into this. The Browns, in some ways, may have sort of seen
They're
this
kind of ahead of that trend.
Yeah. Seen this coming and said, well, we need to get more safeties. This is the direction we want our defense to go. We want to get a little bit bigger while still keeping our coverage viability. And even if you're not sitting there looking at 13 personnel, you're still sitting there looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're going, Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth, we have to find a way to cover them. Or the Pittsburgh Steelers, just giant offensive personnel in general. The Browns have to have an answer for that. So I think all of this just makes Grant Delpit look more valuable. And the other part about that is I think Grant Delpit needs to prove – or not Delpit. I think Ronnie Hickman has to prove more in terms of coverage. I am curious about the dynamic of what is holding up him from signing a restricted tender. Is there some hope that he's going to prove something over the course of the summer that's going to change it? And the Browns are going to be like, well, yeah, of course we need to sign you to an extension. Was this always something that was the restricted tender just put on Hickman because they want to work out some kind of deal with that?
Yeah, which is possible.
Those are interesting questions. But at least right now, outside of Delpit and now McNeil Warren, they are not married to anyone else in that safety room. It's Hickman on what is at least nominally a 1-year deal. I like Donovan McMillan. Christopher Edmonds is interesting. They brought in Zion Washington.
Daniel Thomas, too.
Daniel Thomas, who's sort of the veteran, but like in terms of
I look at Thomas as a special teams guy, personally. Like I don't think he's going to factor much into the base defense or even sub packages.
But those are 4 undrafted safeties that the Browns have brought in over the past 4 years that could easily all be cut tomorrow if they wanted to. Not that that's going to happen. Like, there's nothing concrete. After Delpit, who obviously on the last year of his contract, if they don't work out an extension, it's just McNeil Warren. So that's the other reason I think getting a deal done with Delpit is really prudent. And then, if the Browns get through the season and they really like this scheme and maybe one of these guys steps up and they really like them, they can work out a deal with them. Or if not, and they still really like this idea, we could go into the next offseason going, hey, we're doing this again. We got to get another safety to fill out this thing.
Yeah.
This is the way the NFL is going, and we have to come up with an answer for it.
Yeah, which is definitely reasonable. All right, well, let's talk about. Look, we've talked at too much length about OTAs because of the lack of importance and the lack of information you can really get from OTAs is so minimal. It's as basic and simple as it gets. It's all vanilla.
What I see. I see all kinds of stuff out there, and I'm literally at OTAs. I'm looking at some of the stuff I see out there. I'm like, I'm there, and I don't see this stuff going on. And some of these things could be right. Yeah. I saw a thing where Denzel Boston's the best offensive player at OTAs, which interesting. I would put some severe conditions on that, which are not going to look favorable to the Browns. But that or Deshaun Watson's running with the quarterback competition, and I would acknowledge he's gotten more reps. But from my standpoint, I'm looking at this. Does either quarterback look like a starting caliber quarterback in this league? And the answer to this point is no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, outside of that little brief thing with OTAs, one thing that we can absolutely tell and we can see right off rip, Todd Monken is not Kevin Stefanski. He is not. There's a very different personality coming from that head coach. What kind of a culture shift do you foresee happening, and how quickly do you think Monken can make it happen? I mean, he's talking the talk right now, especially, and it's so funny. It always seems to go like in the extreme of the other direction. Whenever you make a change, whether it be general manager, head coach, or quarterback, it's like whatever your last coach or whoever lacked, it's like you try to make up for it with this new guy. And, you've got the robotic, rehearsed, very, very safe and structured way of communicating that Stefanski had. And then now you had Todd Monken talking about how it's pathetic that his quarterbacks are throwing picks and 7-on-7s and, stuff like that, which, I mean, casual fans, like you gotta kind of like that. It's a nice change of pace. It's kind of exciting, but what's your take on that? And how do you foresee that?
Well, I do think fans like it to this point. I would say that at least to this point, it's difficult to really ascertain how much different it is other than what I see them emphasizing. One of these, they do this ACT period with this alignment pre-snap thing, and then they, do motion, all this stuff, both sides of the ball, move around, and they snap the ball and basically immediately whistle it. Now, given what the Browns have had in terms of pre-snap issues, there are a whole lot of people going, man, this is great. And it's understandable, but like at the same time, this is year one of Todd Monken. Like maybe this is something they would do next year anyway. And this, this is just how he operates, and it could be, and there's a value to it. Obviously, if you're doing this, it means you're devoting time to this that you could be devoting to something else. Nevertheless, from that standpoint, it provides a clear contrast. In terms of like, there is this sense, given quotes like that, where Todd Monken is saying something that sounds like a big deal, not all that controversial. He didn't call anybody out specifically; just said they're throwing picks in 7-on-7, and this is embarrassing. Okay, like it has teeth, but not really. Like I don't know. It just feels sort of generic. What I want to see, like I want to see what it looks like in the dog days of camp, because right now there's two elements to this. I think there's a sense that like people think that Todd Monken is out there getting into guys and all this stuff, and I would tell you that his practices are too busy and he's trying to get too much done to be able to do that. Like at one point, Deshaun Watson had 2 fumbled exchanges at the snap. And the second one, I knew what was coming, and he stopped practice to yell at them about this because, I don't care what level you're at. Your head coach is going to be pissed when he sees the ball on the ground for this type of stuff. You're killing reps. These are the things you can't have happen. That stuff is understandable. But like by and large, unless you are specifically looking for Todd Monken, he will blend into the background because, again, just so much is going on. So when we get into August, are we going to see him at training camp and make it more of an emphasis to get after guys when it's not like fun and guys aren't just sort of running around and doing stuff, and now we're actually hitting and it's not as much fun anymore. It's not new. Now it's work and all this other stuff. Maybe, I mean, ultimately, still guys are trying to make a team. Guys are still competing because they need a job. So maybe that's going to change it. But like, and the other part we don't know. At least I'm reacting to what I see. Either, the time we're out there seeing the practice field, and then like the short amount of time afterwards, he may be getting after guys like in meetings and stuff. We don't see that. But like in terms of practice, like this is the part where this was true for Stefanski too. They are trying to get too much done to really, if you are stopping to choose somebody out, you are choosing to use what is valuable field time to do it. So you're more inclined to sort of like, unless there's something egregious that you have to stop and stop, change something or make a big adjustment, you're probably going to save that for meetings and other stuff where you have more time to sort of really do it.
Of course.
As opposed to operating. So I think some of the presumption that Todd Monken is this sort of old school guy who's going to get into guys is based on how he comes off. I also think it's a response to how people perceived Kevin Stefanski being this soft guy, even though I think the reality is both guys were much closer to each other than anyone wants to recognize, but it's very easy to sort of put them in these buckets at this point. Now, having said that, Todd Monken, he knows the deal. He knows that this could be his only shot, not only shot at a head coaching job, his only year as a head coach. So he's operating in a way where you can feel the urgency of what he wants to get done and all these things. Again, it's May. We'll see how this evolves and changes and how these things, move on as we go, training camp and stuff. So it's like a little bit too early. I bet it 2 OTAs and 2 rookie practices. So it's difficult to get a true sense of this, but like, he's great for a quote. Again, I sort of look at him like Bruce Arians type. Yeah. He's an offensive guy who sounds like a defensive guy. Yeah. In terms of being that no nonsense where all these offensive guys are a little bit more aloof and professorial and that whole thing. And they don't need to sort of sell guys on buying in because they get to give the ball and let them go score points. Defense, you need a little bit more oomph or offensive line coaches because they aren't getting to do the glorious stuff. Like they got to do real work. Whereas you're a receiver, hey, you get the ball and you get to go score. Like that's all the motivation you generally need.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing with Monken is mostly with the media that I'm talking about. It's like kind of face of the team type of stuff. Look, I think Stefanski, and you and I held Stefanski in a little bit higher esteem than a lot of people, but I think Stefanski got after players fine. I think he went over the top to protect his players through the media, which I think that pissed off a lot of fans. That never pissed me off. That's one thing that I respected the hell out of him for. It's very easy to just kind of pass the buck. And like we saw Hugh Jackson do it every single time he was at the podium. So for Kevin Stefanski to go up there and just take every possible bullet and not let anybody else even like stand up behind him was, I thought, admirable. I thought it was good leadership qualities. I think that's the makings of a good coach. And I'm not saying that, Monken throwing guys or, he didn't throw anybody individually, but just like sending a message. I kind of like that,
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't like blamers. I just don't. Like, it's very easy. Todd Bowles at the end of last year melting down and just being like, what do you want me to say to these guys? Like, it doesn't sound good when you do that. Like, it's not wrong per se that like he can say, I've tried everything and it's not getting through. At some point they've got to do it themselves. Yeah. But like, it would have been very easy for Kevin Stefanski to go, look, man, we've practiced the 2-point conversion to Quinshon Judkins. We've been practicing this since the summer. We know what we're supposed to do. We prepared, and he didn't do what he was supposed to do, and throwing him under the bus. I admire the fact that he didn't. And the ultimately players respect that because they know the coach has their back on that. And they're like, I'll play for this guy because I know he's going to be there for me. Now, what I would say to the people who got tired of it is you didn't get tired of that. You got tired of losing. Because that's ultimately what it is. Like, if Todd Monken is at loss, 13 on the year, you don't care what he's saying at that point. You're just tired of losing. So, like, all this stuff only worked. Like, the other example I would use is Dan Campbell. Originally, when he got hired, people thought the stuff he was doing was clownish, like the biting kneecaps and all this other stuff. Then he started winning. And all of a sudden, Dan Campbell, he's great, and he's all this other stuff. Well, it's because he's winning. Like, ultimately – style is influenced by the substance of the win-loss record. Like as long as it works, you don't care. If you look
at Nick Sirianni,
right? Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick was a weirdo in press conferences. Like he was neurotic and all these other things, and like wouldn't divulge anything, but he could hold up a fistful of rings, so nobody cared. Like. When he was losing, it turned real fast.
Oh, yeah. Look at that beating he's been taking the last 2 years.
Right. So, there are a whole lot of people who are, like, bringing up old grudges with Bill Belichick. So, ultimately, your record is going to allow you to endure. Like, not that this is entirely related, but if Mike Vrabel went 5-12, we might be talking about a new coach at this point.
Yeah.
Given everything that's happened. But he went to the Super Bowl. So they're going to deal with it and they're going to see if they can't make it happen. Now, if they turn around and go like 6-11 or 7-10, you may hear this may be a quick for Mike Vrabel. Like all of this stuff, you are willing to put up with a lot or appreciate how somebody operates when it works. Kevin Stefanski was brilliant and a genius when they went to the playoffs. Year one, everybody's like, wow, he's really got this thing going. And then even 2023, he managed to win with 5 different quarterbacks. Man, this guy really knows what he's doing. And then the past 2 years, well, this guy's a complete bum. He never knew how to coach at any point in life ever. So it's always informed by what you do. So, I'm generally being able to sort of watch this happen. I'm just curious to see how Monken sort of plays this thing. I find him interesting in terms of things he operates in because as a coach, I listen to some of the questions he's asked and I know what the answer is going to be before he answers it because or some of the things he's going to do in practice before they happen because I just know how the beats of how these things go. So it's really interesting to see how these things play out and how he reacts. But yeah, so it's entertaining from that standpoint. I'm just sort of curious to see how he rolls with some of these things. Like he makes headlines because have you talked to Myles Garrett? No. Okay. Like
Whoa.
One, he gives you nowhere to go. It's great because he gives you nowhere to go.
Yeah.
I think it's really smart on his part. He's like, no, and moving on. What's never followed up is because the question I would naturally, I'm not inclined to ask him, but if I was a person who's sort of thinking, have you talked to Denzel Ward? Because the answer might also be no. Have you talked to Grant Delpit? The answer might also be no. But because it's Myles Garrett, we put so much more meaning on everything. He's the only one who's ever asked about. But those other guys that have not been in OTAs the entire time. Have you talked to Malik Collins? I don't know. Like, he hasn't been there either. So obviously his situation's a little bit different with the injury, but like still. But we freak out over this stuff because it's brought up every time. Yeah. So it's constantly put back out there. But like, if not, it would probably be looked at in the same vein as Ward and Delpit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, though. If, Ward and Delpit were the constant subject of trade rumors, we would probably hear more about them not being there. But it's like anything that Myles does that isn't completely in the, I love the Cleveland Browns side of things, people are immediately going to be like, oh, he's not happy. He doesn't want to be there. He's asking for a trade. It's not June 1st yet. That's why nobody's saying anything, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, that's why you got that. But, I mean, speaking of this, because I was going to ask you about quarterbacks, but we got plenty of time for that. But let's talk about this Myles thing now, because you hear it constantly on the radio. We got June 1st right around the corner, and we haven't
all the time because you won't listen to anything else.
First of all, I asked you a question, Pete. All right, we're not talking about me. We're talking about Myles Garrett.
Here's the thing. I just saw Jonathan Greenard get traded for 2 third-round picks.
Yeah.
I expect the Arizona Cardinals are going to trade Sweat. And these guys keep coming available. If you're a team that's sitting there going, I need to get a pass rusher, I'm on the verge of something, do you want to start talking about giving up 2 and 3 and potentially more first-round picks for Myles Garrett? Or do I want to give maybe a first or a second, or in the case of Greenard, 2/3 to get a really good pass rusher that might put you over the top and not cripple your draft capital for the next several years? Like,
yeah,
this is the part that people don't seem to understand is like, the big team that everybody kept throwing out there that was going to trade for Myles Garrett, and theoretically, I suppose it could still happen, is the Philadelphia Eagles, where they got Greenard. Okay, well, one of the other teams
that could still absolutely happen, though, Pete.
They could.
I personally wouldn't want to trade him to Philly, but
right.
I mean, it could happen.
But like another team that's posited out there, there's 2 other teams that are posited out there as potential trade destinations: Chicago and the 49ers. Yeah. Well, one of them could easily pick up Sweat and be like, "We're good," because we certainly don't want to give up the first-round pick in next year's draft.
Yeah.
And then all the other elements that come with it, like. I just think the more we see this stuff happening, yes, the way they change the contract theoretically opens the door, but somebody has to go through it and offer up enough. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I've said all along, based on what I saw the last calendar year, where you added Carson Schwessinger, Harold Fannin, Quinshon Judkins, and Mason Graham, and they all hit. And you got Malik Collins, and you got, who's not a young man, by the way.
Yeah,
they did not. He's not a young man. They added Tyson Campbell, who's still relatively young, but not like,
he's a veteran,
not like a rookie at this point.
He's on a second contract. Yeah,
you hit on all of those moves. If you were going to trade to Myles Garrett, wouldn't it be because you missed on a whole bunch of stuff and like you didn't make demonstrable moves, and then you add on to that, you just got Spencer Fano, you just got Concepcion, you just got Denzel Boston. It's your first 3 picks, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. Like, these are the Browns thought they could get the first 2. They thought they would get one of the other 2. They got all 4 of them. So if you're sitting there going, on some level, if you're the Browns and you're sitting there saying, we feel like we're ahead of schedule, why would that incentivize you to then trade Myles Garrett? And the thing that I have never been able to get people to understand is you are not trading Myles Garrett for a quarterback. You are theoretically trading Myles Garrett for assets to then have to make a separate transaction to get the quarterback. And even if somehow that lands you the quarterback, which you don't know that it will, you then have to replace Myles Garrett. And by the way, the defensive end room is not like stocked full of guys the way it has been in the past.
It's without Myles, it's not good, Pete.
No, it's bad. Like Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire are fine football players.
Yeah, they're nice.
Neither one is a pass rusher. Like neither one is simply we're going to get X sacks out of this guy. This guy's going to be a massive pass rusher. No, like
if they trade Myles Garrett, we're going to get the number 1 pick. That's how I look at it. I think he makes that big a difference to that defense.
But we're
because
not.
I don't see how they get off the field on 3rd down without Myles Garrett.
Okay. Do you want me to pull up the Miami Dolphins roster?
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
You know who has arguably the most beat? Based on just obviously all this is subject to change, but do you know who has arguably the most difficult schedule in the entire league? The Arizona Cardinals, who drafted Jeremiah Love and Carson Beck on a year where they needed to make like real moves. Yeah. The Browns are not going to get first pick. They just aren't, unless they actively say, unless Shedeur Sanders drops back and like hands the ball to a defensive lineman a couple times. They're just not that bad. Like we went through the schedule. Like, don't get me wrong. They have the capability to lose to every single team they face. But like, there's nobody on that schedule like, nope, no chance. They are never going to beat this team. Like even
they've got one of the 3 easiest schedules in football this year. And they travel the least amount of any team in the NFL.
Now, again, six road games in the first 9 is really tough. But there's no individual week where you go, they cannot win this game. They could certainly lose it. It's no different than Green Bay last year. Nobody thought the Browns were going to win that game, and they pulled it out. Like,
well, I think that's the trickiest part. The trickiest part for me with the Myles trade, I mean, you alluded to it. It's getting somebody that A, wants to pay Myles, B, can pay Myles, C, has the assets that we want, D, is willing to give up the assets that we want. We need all of those things. Otherwise, it's going to be a lopsided trade in a direction that we don't want it to be. Like, that's just reality of it. Us getting all those things to line up, like a contender that Myles will go to, a team that will pay him, a team that will pay up the picks to get him, all that stuff. That's so hard to find.
Well,
and there's not another 31 teams we're choosing for. That's a very small sector of those 31 teams.
And it's not in Myles' interest for the Browns to milk the team that he's going to be traded to.
Yeah.
So, like, if a team gives up, if the team gives up like the Deshaun Watson haul for Myles Garrett's going to look at the situation and go, "Oh my God, they gave up everything, and if we don't win like right now, I could be on the Browns in a second because my team is going to be awful in a year." The other thing, this is sort of the calculation that I'm curious about, and this is why I don't get too caught up in this. I do not assume that Myles is somewhere angry. I assume Myles is just living his life.
Yeah.
And is doing his thing with his gold medal girlfriend and all this stuff. Like, he's just, if that means he's recharging to get ready for the season and training his body and doing all this stuff, great, man. Like, I'm here for it. Like, if that's what he needs to do, great. I'm not going to hold it against him. He has a track record where I should say he's going to show up and he may get 20 sacks again. Like, what am I going to do? I do not view him as like a franchise leader. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think there are guys that are trying to earn that respect. Obviously, it's curious. That's the part that's curious to me. Denzel Ward was a guy who's always been at OTAs. He's not there. Grant Delpit, I do think is a leader, isn't there. Carson Schwessinger is, and I do think he's going to be a leader. But like, it's of note to me that basically the entire offense is there. Now, it's understandable. They're doing more to change the offense than they are on defense, and that's part of it.
Yeah, but you got a new defensive coordinator, Pete. But
I mean, like
I don't want to be pessimistic, but that's a slippery slope. And granted, I won't freak out until the actual June minicamp where it's mandatory. If people stay out of that one, then I'll, my spidey senses will be going off.
But if you're Myles Garrett and you sat there and go, man, Carson Schwessinger is a really good football player, he has praised the hell out of Mason Graham.
Yeah.
And you said there, Herald Fan's a really good player. And I like what Quinshon Judkins could do. And man, they got Spencer Fano and Concepcion and Boston. If I show up and these guys look pretty good, maybe this year won't be great, but do I sit there and I have the same attitude as all these other people who are covering the league and going, man, if the Browns or the Jets get a quarterback, look out.
Yeah.
Then ultimately, like, Myles Garrett's suddenly in a situation where okay, like, I can sort of use this to sort of prod the team to do everything they can to get better and sort of keep that. If you want to view it as he's the voice of the fan in that case and saying, we demand better and you got to get this thing in the right direction. Great, man. You can keep that. Like I'm here for it. Like that would be great. But at the same time, you got to be sitting there going, do I really want to leave this? This defense is really good. I just won Defensive Player of the Year and set the sack record in this defense. And yeah, maybe Rutenberg's going to change some things ultimately. He's not going to change me. And if they get an offense, I'm going to get all of a sudden I'm going to get everything I ever wanted by just being patient, and all at the same time getting to be in malcontent, not like really, but in the sense of looking like I'm not satisfied and I'm prodding the team to get it. Like in that scenario, I just wonder if he is thinking ahead and going, man, this is a pretty good situation for me, and is patient. That's the other part where, I assume he's going to show up for June. I assume he's going to be there June 9th for mandatory veteran minicamp.
Yeah.
If he shows up and goes, man, these guys are pretty good, is he all of a sudden going to be like, I don't want to go anywhere? And again, this is the other part. Like, he has a no trade clause. So somebody could offer all the things and he'd be like, I don't want to go there. This team's going to suck if we don't win 1 year. No, I'm putting the kibosh on this thing. And at the same time, he gets to look like a hero and go, man, I said I'm staying in Cleveland. All these other. There's just a weird political element to this where I think Miles can come out ahead. Now, what is he actually thinking? I don't know. And this is the thing. Yeah. I'm not going to say I know what Miles is thinking, but I'm at least going to consider the possibility he's sitting there going, man, like he's sitting there, looking around the NFL and going, wow, all these people, all these media people are saying the Browns crushed the draft. Hey, man, I watch Texas A&M. I like Casey Concepcion. Like, that's my team. Yeah. He may like this more than we're acknowledging. I don't know. This is the thing, and he could come in June and be like, nah, man, I still don't want to be here, all this other stuff.
Well,
but if his thought process was sort of like, I'm done with Kevin, Kevin's gone. You got a new coach too. So like, does that work for you? Do you got to keep your defensive line coach? I think he likes Jacques Césaire. Like, I think part of this whole thing is that the rest of the NFL desperately wants Miles to get traded because it's interesting. He's not going to be on any national television games other than the Thursday night game, all this other stuff. And the NFL has this weird compulsion to like, I've got one. Miles potentially being moved is a huge story. Great for me as somebody who covers the league. So I'm going to go talk about it. And if I'm going to go on talk to Cleveland people, this is more interesting to me than talking about Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
But like, is it actually in the best interest of the league? Maybe, maybe not. I just think I'm not putting the cart before the horse on that. I'm allowing for a lot of possibilities, and I'm going to wait till see how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much where I'm at too. I think we both agree, and anybody that understands the true return that we're going to get from Miles, it'll never be enough. He's the best player in football. He's an absolute freak. He's walking into the Hall of Fame the second his 5 years are up after he retires. I mean, he's incredible. We haven't seen any drop off. He's steadily gotten better, even at this point. Like, it's just my only fear, Pete, and my only concern. And again, just like you said, I'm not at Miles's head. I have no idea what he thinks. He could love Cleveland. He could hate Cleveland. He could love Monken. He could hate Monken. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But there is a universe where this guy, who is a Texas kid, he's not from Cleveland. He's been here a long time. He re-signed here. He's lost a lot of football games. He's accomplished everything you can accomplish as an individual player. He might just be done. And he might have said last year, fine, I'll give you 1 more year. And they gave him Shedeur Sanders. And now they're coming into this season with Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. If you told me that Miles is just like, thanks, but no thanks, let's make this happen, I wouldn't be surprised. I get it.
It's possible. The other thing, to the point of they cannot get value. They cannot get enough.
No, it's impossible.
The Browns traded down from 2 to 5 and got more than Micah Parsons did in a trade. The Browns traded down from 6 to 9 and got as much, at least equivalent, if not more, than the Minnesota Vikings did for Jonathan Grenard. Like, that's the other part about this is Andrew Berry is in such an impossible situation because you traded Travis Hunter to get this massive haul. You have to get so much for Miles to like get in, and you have to get a deal where everybody's like, of course he had to take that. You have to get the same reaction that we had when Browns traded from 2 to 5 and then from 6 to 9. 2 to 5 were like the thought process, well, they have to get enough that nobody questions it. They did. And then from 6 to 9, you're like, love this deal, everything about it. Like that is the bar for trading this player. And I don't know how it's possible he can clear that bar, which is why I ultimately don't think it's going to happen. The contract allows potentially for peace of mind that teams can come and offer and do all these other things. But like Miles can be, if Miles is like unhappy, he can be as happy as he wants. He obviously cannot go for peanuts and be like, yeah, of course I get to have my own way. This is not the NBA. Like they have to get value. And I think that's part of this is like, yes, by everybody looks at this from the standpoint of, hey, they adjusted the contract. That must mean the Browns are going to move him. It also just opens the door for teams to then make offers and the Browns can consider them. But they may find out that none of them are realistic. And then the Browns are just like, well, this is what the deal was. And there's nothing there. So we can't move you. And Miles basically has to be like, yeah, he may not love it. He may not be thrilled about it. But if he goes and gets 20 sacks again, he'll get over it. Like that's the other part where I have a really difficult time with this is, again, not his head. But the worst thing that ever happened to Myles Garrett is he played last season and got 22 and he set the sack record and won defensive player of the year. How awful for him. I weep for his play. If only we all had to deal with that while making 40 minutes.
Kind of struggle.
And look, man, I'm not going to like say like it's his life. He gets to run it how he wants, but I think he has to have some sense of I could look like a real I could look real bad if I make this a thing and the ultimate privileged position, even if you can sit there and go, well, that's what he gets because he's a demigod. Like he gets to do those type of things. But he did not play this particularly well the last time he did it. I would hope that he got a little bit smarter again. So I'm curious to see if his reaction is, man, Andrew Berry did a really good job with this. I like where this thing's going. And man, this year may not be great, but like, I still think we're going to win more games than we did last year. And if they get a quarterback, look out. Now I can do all the things I ever wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and at the end of the day, if Andrew Berry ever wants to just basically make a point of what he's been doing, we've talked about it. If Deshaun Watson wouldn't have completely fallen apart as a player, this team's competing for the Super Bowl the last 3 years.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. That is. I mean, they did the exact same thing that the Rams did. They had a quarterback that they thought was limited to the point that they could do better, and they took a real big swing for the fences. The difference is the Rams got Matt Stafford, and we got the ghost of Deshaun Watson. That's it. That's the difference. Otherwise, we got a younger player that was still ascending and was supposed to take us exactly where we wanted to be. And we had the defense built to do it. So if you look at it through that lens, and it's obviously it's as stupid as Kenny Atkinson saying, well, analytically we won 2 of the first 3 games.
All right.
But
we have to address that, by the way.
Yeah.
We have to address
Pete? Do we have to?
Yes, we do.
We have to address the
I have been fighting. I've been waging a war.
Have ever heard from a coach?
I've been waging a war for 10 years against people who look at analytics as witchcraft. And this fool comes out and goes, we're winning.
Sets everybody back.
Yes. And like I have to deal with this. We're like, analytics are stupid. Look at like it's information. Like literally you get in your car and you have analytics on every dial on your thing. And then Kenny Atkinson has to go on no, we're winning analytically. Like, come on, man. I'm trying to work here. No, this is the other part, which is not lost on me. If Myles Garrett shows up, has a smile on his face, and just goes to work on June 9th, he wins. Like he's going to win. People are going to celebrate him. This is the other part that he hasn't said a word. And by virtue of the fact that he hasn't said a word, everybody has filled in the space for him. And if he comes in and goes, happy to be here, ready to work, all this other stuff, they will laud him with praise. I cannot get over this with the comparison to LeBron James. LeBron James could not be criticized before he left the first time. Then when he left, he came back, and then people were willing to criticize him the second time, even though a lot of it was, well, he's basically a saint. So be careful. But like Miles has never left. And if he never leaves, he will always be sanctified in a way. If ultimately they win the Super Bowl, like he's going to be more looked upon, more favorable. I know this will be controversial. If he never leaves and they win the Super Bowl, he will look more favorably than LeBron will be.
Oh,
it's
that's
a bigger deal sport for this in the region. I know he's not from here, but if he never left and they won a Super Bowl and he's a big part of it, he will get more. Like, look at what Jose Ramirez gets. Understandably, fairly, just for not leaving and being a great player and sticking around. And like people talk about, well, you're gonna have to build a Jose Ramirez statue. If Myles Garrett sticks around, like, and you can say what you want. Kobe Bryant demanded a trade from one point at the Los Angeles Lakers. It got worked out. Who cares? If he sticks around and they win a Super Bowl and do all this other stuff, like even if they don't, and he gets 200 sacks in a Browns uniform, he's going to be hailed in a way that he's going to be untouchable. And again, he owns a piece of the Cavs. Until I see him sell that piece, like if we found out that, like, after the one game he was at
the Bulls,
after the one game he was at for the playoffs and then left to go travel or whatever, basically said, by the way, I'm selling my piece of the team. Okay, then I'm more willing to listen to that. But he is like, he's entrenched in a way that people don't seem to recognize. Like, I think people miss out on that piece of it. Like, he likes being able to be on the court and do all the stuff and like dapping up the players and getting all that. People just absolutely worship him when he goes to these places. He can own this region forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, it doesn't make a ton of sense to move Miles unless Miles is forcing it. That's the only way I see it happening is if Miles, but even then, even though he's got a no trade clause, but he has a finite window of playing ability and like years that he can play, right? The Browns own his contract. If the Browns want to play hardball, it'd be fine. Sit out. I don't care. Do you want to retire yourself? Go ahead.
You're going
to play for us, or you're not going to play. They're in that position. They can do that.
If he was serious about that, the Browns could be like, okay, sit out this year. We won't pay you the $40 million. Mm-hmm. We'll improve our draft position for the quarterback. Yep. And like they can actually sell it as a positive for that. That's the crazy element of this, because so many people are so focused on the 2027 draft class. You're like, okay, sit out. Great. We'll see you next year. Hopefully you'll have a better quarterback and you'll be ready to go. And we'll save $40 million. Like it's weird how that piece plays out in this whole thing. It's genuinely insane.
Yeah. Well, let's flip over, because I wanted to talk about quarterbacks. I wanted to talk about the rep distribution that you've seen so far in camp. Now, word on the street. Now you're there. You can set all this stuff straight for me. But from everything that I understand, it is a 2-man competition between Deshaun and Shedeur, and Deshaun is getting about 65% of the reps to Shedor's 35%, and then the other two, then Dylan, then Talon. Is that about what you see?
In the one day since the rookies have been there, yeah, that was true. I don't remember that being the case, the OTA before the draft. But I could be mistaken. Clearly I would say at this point, clearly Dylan Gabriel is in third.
Yeah.
I think that you can stipulate. Now, Shedeur was though he got less reps, was actually with the first group last Wednesday. Does that really matter? I think most people are just looking at the reps and going, that's probably the more important indicator. But we'll see. I mean, here's the thing. Deshaun Watson, legitimately, 2 fumbles out of snap exchanges. Like, the head coach did not stop practice to yell at Shedeur.
Yeah.
He stopped practice to yell at Deshaun.
Well, one thing that I would say, though, look, Shedeur's in year 2. Shedeur's in a new system. All this other stuff. Deshaun is this year 9 for Deshaun or year 10?
At least. It feels like year 20 in Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure it's year 10, but either way, no big deal. Either way, he's a veteran. He's been there. He's done that. He's comfortable with the processes, all that stuff. Doesn't it make a little bit of sense to have him take the bulk of the reps as you're infusing all this young talent into the offense, just as kind of more of a steadying hand at that point, I guess? or maybe there's a more of a trust factor with Monken because he's a veteran. Pete, I'm going to dislocate my shoulder reaching for reasons that they have this guy taking 65% of the snaps. Like I can't wrap my head around it, even if it's OTAs.
I don't have a great reason for them to give him 65% if that's the number now. I think they have more incentive to get either more guys reps in general right now, or to make it equal, or even if you want to lean it to Shedeur and Deshaun, give them more reps. Now, here's the thing. Like, Shedeur could have theoretically had the same – they could have flipped it the next day. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't necessarily find it indicative, but it's interesting. But, like, I'm trying – one, I think making a decision based on what I've seen so far, making a decision on the starting quarterback by June 11th is insane. I want, if it's me, and Todd Monken, based on how he talks, I think he's feeling the same way.
No.
Because, like, his answer is basically, yeah, when we go to Jacksonville, we'll have a lineup. I'm with him 100%. I want to see whether it's Shedeur, Dylan, whoever, I want to see what they're able to do after the 5-6 week layoff from minicamp until training camp. If you listen to Shedeur and talk about him being a tactile learner, all this stuff, that would suggest to me that at a large amount of that time, or however much of that time, he's going to get in the lab and feel this thing out. Are they going to do the thing where, he gets together with, let's say, Concepcion in Boston? I don't know, but like, it feels like to me he's going to want to get in the lab and try to hammer down as much as he can so he can come in July with a vengeance and look to take that job. And if I'm Todd Monken, I want to give him that chance, because I'm only evaluating this against what should a starting quarterback look like. And I'm talking about 7-on-7s.
Yeah.
None of them look like that. And this is against the defense without Denzel Ward, without Grant Delpit. Like, it's not like Tyson Campbell's there, Carson Schweitzer there, and looks fantastic. Quincy Williams is there. Okay, fine. These are, good players, but they don't even have like the A team out there. And again, it's May. I don't expect the quarterback to be necessarily polished anyway, but I can understand Todd Monken's frustration and being like, we're throwing picks. And this is where I sort of sit there and go, yeah, Shedeur and Dylan threw actual picks. Basically the first throw of 7-on-7, Deshaun threw the ball right to D'Angelo Ross and dropped it, so the QB tracker didn't count it as interception. I know how I count it as somebody who coaches the position. It's a pick. Yeah. You throw it right to him. It was a terrible decision. And it was funny because, like, literally the next play is when he went over the top to Denzel Boston, which is beautiful. But, like, to his point, it's 7-on-7. What are we doing? There's no pass rush. So I want to see all but one of them get a chance to sort of digest the offense and come back in July and see where they end up. Because I assume I'm working under the impression that Todd Monken / Mike Bajakian, or however his name is pronounced, and the offensive coordinator who I forget exists constantly, are going to give these guys homework and stuff to work on during that break, and hopefully they're going to come back better. And, like, if you listen to the way Shedeur talks, that would hopefully set him up to come back and be better and hopefully be ready to go by July. But, like, I hear a lot of people being like, man, they should really name a starter. Like, some people already should name a starter, or should name a starter by the end of minicamp. And to me, it means nothing based on what I've seen to this point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. If they're having a genuine competition of any sorts at that position, you cannot decide it at OTAs. Like, you can't. Like, either way.
No,
I mean, I'm not saying anything that we all don't already know.
Yeah, I mean, given Deshaun's track record, how could you possibly put yourself in a position to name him a starter and have him absolutely make you look like a fool when that's come on?
Isn't it insane that it's like, it's not even talked about how bad he was when he played in 2024? It's like, oh, well, he looks good. He looks like he got some of his athleticism back, this and that. It's like, I don't care about his athleticism.
No,
he was mentally the worst quarterback we've seen in a Browns uniform in a really long time. And we've seen so many bad quarterbacks, Pete. Like that's such a competitive list if you really think about it, you know?
So the fact that and this is the part where I think it opens the door for somebody like Shedeur. If the first play is 7-on-7, he's throwing the ball he's the 10-year vet. He's throwing the ball right to D'Angelo Ross.
Yeah.
How does that give you any confidence? So look, man, people can think what they think in terms of, well, he's getting 65% of the reps. This suggests that Deshaun's the leader in the clubhouse and all this other stuff. And you have the report come out, whatever. But why are you allowing yourself to be put in the position of to look a fool again? And I know what the answer to that, some of it is. It's because it gets attention, moves the needle and draws traffic. Great. But like in terms of actually making a meaningful assessment of what's going on, to me, it's nothing. And Todd Monken, the one thing I can say for Todd Monken, he does not strike me as a fool. He all the stuff about he has to be aware of what people think of Deshaun Watson. He's going to make his own assessment, evaluate accordingly, and then make a decision. But he knows what's out there if he says Deshaun Watson's the starter. So he's going to let it play out. He's being very cautious with it, which, again, I approve of. So I'm curious to see, we got one more OTA this week, one more OTA next week that the media will be at. Obviously, there's other practices. And then the 3-day veteran minicamp. I am trying my best, unless one of them comes out and just absolutely torches it the next 2 days. I'm going to try my best to wait and have a more informed opinion if I'm there for 3 straight days and I'm watching guys do it, because that's going to give me a real sample size. And again, I'm still going to preface this by saying I still want to wait the 6 weeks, but I can at least say, as we sit here on June 11th, that I can say this guy looks like he's ahead at this point or not. I'm trying not to I do not want to make this a horse race, because it's not. And if it is, they are, if it is a horse race, they are closer to the dog food factory than they are the finish line.
Let me ask you this. And I've been among the most critical people of Dylan Gabriel. But aren't you a little bit surprised that it's like he's just an afterthought? Like
I'll tell you what surprises me. I'm surprised he's not doing better. Again, I said it on the show last week. I wanted to see more out of these guys in 7-on-7s.
Yeah.
Now Harold Fannin didn't practice last week. I think the gravity around Harold Fannin is big enough that makes a real difference.
Yeah.
But you watch the receivers they have on that group, and I'm just talking about numbers. That's how Boston was repping with the threes. Now, what does that mean? Not much. But he was with the third group, because they have enough guys.
Yeah. They've got dudes now. They've got talent, dude.
I was going to say, based on what I saw last Wednesday, Cedric Tillman was the best guy there.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? Not much. But, that's how many guys are in here. Like Isaiah Bond is really interesting. I want to see more of what Malachi Corley does. Now, I think Malachi Corley is more of a pads guy, which is what you want. But you're not, even when you get down to the undrafted free agents, some of the guys they brought in, you're still like, Aaron Anderson looks interesting. There's some guys down there, but Jerry.
I think in the fourth quarter, I think Taylor Green is going to be throwing to some decent players. Some guys that we know and we kind of dig.
Well, perfect world. I would love Concepcion in Boston be playing all kinds of preseason and the rest of the guys not. But he's going to have real dudes to throw the ball. It's not going to be, some of that's going to be a function of people really like Luke Flourier last year. That was a fun story. Now, do I think Luke Flourier has a chance in hell of making this team? Not of what I've seen. But still, that is how much the group has been upgraded, where we talk about Luke Flourier being a guy who would get passes last year, or at least some people were, and going, man, this guy can make the team and make a difference. And you're just no, this shows you how unserious this room is, to this year where you're the undrafted rookies are going to have an almost impossible time, or undrafted guys they've assembled over the last couple of years are going to have basically an impossible time making this team. There's just too many guys. And we're going to sit here and go, well, where's Cedric Tillman going to be in September? I don't know.
But you're probably moving off of at least 2 draft picks. You're likely moving off of Tillman. You're probably going to cut Jamari Thrash. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Jamari Thrash, listen, I'll say this: Jamari Thrash looks good.
Yeah, but where's he going to stick, Pete?
6.
He doesn't play special teams.
You better figure it out.
You better figure it out. You see how bad they were last year? I don't want Jamari Thrash figuring it out. That's what got Bubba Ben Trump fired, guy. Come on.
No, I think your boy Tyler Wallace is going to have a tough time.
Who?
Tyler
Lockett? Or not Lockett. Jesus. Tyler Wallace.
I wish it was Tyler Lockett. What are you doing? I know you're like 40 years old. Cool. You can still run some routes. No, I mean, like, Malachi Corley's going to be on special teams.
Well, that's why.
Denzel Boston is going to play specials.
Yeah.
Denzel Boston will be on specials. Casey Concepcion is going to be returning stuff.
Yeah.
Jamari Thrash, that is going to be an element to this. Can he do enough? I will just say this, man. Running around without pads, just in helmets, he's interesting. Again, when I talk about these wave after wave of guys, like I'm sitting there going, Jamari Thrash catching passes looks pretty good. You're like, so
and we saw him last year flash a little bit in limited time.
Yeah, I mean, he was always one of those guys where, like, the times he got the ball, I liked what I saw, and I wish the quarterback situation was more functional so we could see more of this. And again, hopefully the offensive line, all the stuff will make it better, but we'll see. But regardless, I sit there and go, it's a different world from that position this year as to what it can be. But, like, to Dylan Gabriel, he's got to get it going.
Yeah,
7 like it's not a height thing in 7-on-7. You got to see it, throw it, do the thing. So I'm hoping. Again, I saw one day, and I didn't think he was very good.
How did he look physically? How did the arm look?
He throws fine. Like that's never the issue. For him, it's see it fast enough to get the ball where you need to go and have your body in the right position to make it has always been the thing. And this is without linemen. So when the linemen are coming on the field, like it's going to make it more difficult. So like he needs to be like carving up 7-on-7 and stuff. And like the fact that he's not sits there again, it's still early and I'd like to see him progress. And when we get to July, then hopefully it will look a lot better. But there's got to be in terms of improvement, I would say urgency is a key for both the second year quarterbacks.
Yeah. Which look, that's understandable, especially it's very early in the process for them. They've got a couple more months until the season. They got plenty of practice, plenty of time to put in. But I agree with you. My issues with Dylan Gabriel are all in the lens of a starting NFL quarterback.
Yep.
If you look at him as an NFL quarterback that can contribute to a team, he's going to have a long career, or at least I thought, and I still think that he will. And as soon as the mental side of things catch up to where he's comfortable, confident, and making those quick reads and quick decisions, I think he's going to be okay. Case Keenum had a hell of a career, and he's a damn good quarterback. And you look at Case Keenum. I think Case Keenum was the all-time leading passer until Dylan surpassed him. Keenum was an absolute witch at Houston. Like these guys can play. They can spray the ball around, but you can't give me a physical deficiency as my long-term quarterback. You just can't.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is he's supposed to be the smart process, all that stuff. And
you're not seeing it.
I'm not sure I can discern a big difference between him and Shedeur Sanders at this point. I think Shedeur Sanders is doing things that make me go, all right. Like, I think he's gotten a little bit better. Like the pick he threw last week was bad, where he was late, and people are going to crush Judy. I don't care. You can get on Judy if you want, but like the ball was late, and that's why it resulted in the pick. But like
if Judy's even on the field, they're going to blame Judy. Yeah.
There's some stuff where I look at Shedeur Sanders like, well, that's pretty good. Like it looked for a lot of people, it looked like a nothing burger. To me, that play to Carson Ryan was like indicative of something right. He saw where the line opens up, felt it, immediately attacked the line of scrimmage while keeping his eyes up. Because he keeps his eyes up as he's attacking the line of scrimmage, he sees Carson Ryan, dumps it off to him. Carson Ryan looks like a hero because Carson Ryan is sort of pedaling down, thinking he's making it easier for Shedeur is thinking he's still moving, so I'm going to throw it to where he was. And Carson Ryan looks like a hero because it's one-handed grab. Now, it also highlights all the things I like about Carson Ryan, why I really like him, is because he makes quarterbacks right, which is a really valuable skill set. But like, there are times where Shure last year would have just run. Yeah. Didn't care that he saw it. He would just run. There, he sees it. He delegates, gives it to Carson Ryan. You do the work. You go. And those are things where it seems small, but like those are things that Shedeur did not do well last year. I'm hoping to see more of that. Again, it's difficult to judge. I think I went looking at it specifically, and it's weird because you're inside and you're far away. I do think his footwork is getting better. I still think he has room to grow. I still think there are times where he can't get the ball out as quickly as he wants. There have been times where he wants to get the ball out and his body is not where it needs to be to do it. And if he can get that part right, I think we might see a big jump. Maybe I'm hoping for it more than anything, but like those are the things I'm looking for when I watch him. He's interesting in terms of what he can be. But like, again, I'm judging this against you have to judge it two ways. You have to judge it relative to what the Browns have at quarterback, which is dubious. And then what does it look like relative to how it's supposed to look? And that's where how he looks relative to Deshaun Watson is not a huge hurdle. Obviously, I would love him nothing more than him just absolutely blow Watson out of the water. But I'd really like him to just look good relative to this is how a quarterback's supposed to operate. And I'm hoping whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, whether it's the mini camp or in July and August, that I'm going to see more and more of those things. And him talking about being a tactile learner, that it's going to start figuring out and he's going to get better and better. I've talked about this, but it for that position, so much of it is you work so hard and you sort of stay flat for a while. And then at some point you just take that epiphany and you take a jump and then you're flat again. Maybe, I'm hoping he's close to an epiphany that he can make a jump and suddenly we're like, okay, that's interesting. And then we can see where that is.
Well, I can tell you right now, he has to make a jump because if he doesn't, he's not going to be on the field for very long. I feel like they'll move off of Shedeur relatively quickly if he doesn't make enough of a jump or show enough. But I maintain, man, I like the kid. I think he's very tough mentally. I think he's a really, really good passer. He's a very accurate passer. And I feel like there were times last year, I mean, him and Isaiah Bond had a very strong connection towards the end of the year. And there were times where it's like they almost just drew it up in the sand. Like there was the one play where he told him leaving the huddle, hey, do a post or, whatever he called. And it's just like when he just cuts it loose, he throws a beautiful ball, man. And as bad as he was supposedly on the mental side of things and on the, the fundamental side of things with the footwork and everything like that, if he can clear that stuff up, he's going to be a player. Because even with that stuff being a mess, he was wildly productive at Colorado. You saw the skills. You saw his ability to throw the football. If he can figure out the mental side, man, I think he's a player.
If all he had to do was throw,
he's
a top 16 quarterback right now. He's just that he's gifted. He has so many tools in the bag. But,
there's a lot more that goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much to go in this. His feet have to be right, and then he's got to the trickiest part is learning how defenses operate, what they're going to do post snap, the jump in athleticism and speed, what open really is now, and getting punched. Like, I'm not, I know I don't want to see picks in 7-on-7. I understand the thought process of, well, you're testing your boundaries and you're seeing what you can do.
If you're going to throw picks, practice is where you do it.
If he was coming off a year we threw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, and okay, fine, test the boundaries. I've seen proof of concept. I don't have time. Like, he doesn't have time for it. To me, he needs to be good and right and consistent now, and then he can have the success, and then we can go back to the lab and play around with stuff. So I don't know that that's his thought process. Again, I'm not trying to jump in his head, but like that's the stuff. Like, I don't want to see. You're first or second year quarterback. I don't want to see you throwing a bunch of picks in 7-on-7. And to be fair, he threw one. I don't want to make it sound like he threw a whole bunch of.
But it's enough,
But yeah, I mean, it's enough that they got the coach mad because all three of his quarterbacks threw a pick. other than Taylor Green, who threw one pass. All three of his quarterbacks threw picks in that period.
Well, let me ask you this now, because this is just my take on this situation and why fundamentals, especially for a quarterback, are so important. If you don't have those superhero qualities like your, Pat Mahomes and your Josh Allens and your Caleb Williams, right? If you don't have that howitzer on your shoulder and all the athleticism in the world, you need your fundamentals. You need your feet under you. You need, like, if okay, take Tua Tagovailoa. This is my favorite example of this. If he's on time, if Tua's on time, he is absolutely dangerous. Mm-hmm. He's quick with it. He's accurate with it. He knows he throws a very catchable ball. I mean, we've seen him lead the league in passing. He is an absolute assassin when he's on time and things are good. But the second, Pete, he gets pushed off schedule, he's a turnover machine. He's an injury machine. There's nothing good happens when Tua's off schedule, and it's because he doesn't have the skill set to do anything off platform. If he's not in a clean pocket with his feet set, his arm is like Josh Allen throwing lefty. That's just where it is. So you're a quarterback's coach. That's basically the rip with fundamentals, no?
Well, I mean, if not for that, Taylor Green is a starting quarterback right now. Yeah. He can throw the ball a mile. He's 6'6". He's got incredible speed. Like, if he can read it, if he can do the fundamentals, if he has good footwork and shortens up his motion on some things and can just read the defense and understand what's happening, like, if it was as simple as you could flip that switch, he's the starter right this second. There's not even a question. Like, competition's over because he's just that much more skilled than everybody, which is why it's so hard, which is why a quarterback like Tua Tagovailoa can even be on a field at all. Mm-hmm. Like, or Case Keenum, or some of these other quarterbacks. You're sitting there going, this guy can't. Freddie Kosar was throwing, the David Coulier making fun of the awkward forward fumble for a throwing motion, like, and he was successful because he knew what he was looking at and could process the information that well. And that's the trick. Like, we saw, how many insane boondoggles did the NFL partake after Michael Vick just take tools, just take insane tools to figure out. We've seen waves of this. Like, with them, it was like, the
Tarvarius Jackson,
Matt Jones and Tarvarius Jackson. And then we've obviously seen it done again with, like, Paxton Lynch and those things. And we're seeing it again with Drew Lohr. Like, there's always Anthony Richardson. There's always this temptation, or people who still will tell you Lenore Sellers is a first-round pick, or DJ Lagway's got first-round potential. Like, there's always going to be that element to it. But, like, it's an art. Joe Montana looks like shit, with bird legs and the whole thing. He's just really, really good. Yep. There's an art to it, and that's why it's the most difficult position in sports. Brock Purdy went in the 7th round, and he just knows how to play the position.
Yeah, now he's making $55 a year. That's a crazy one, man. That's such a wild story. All right, well, let's shift over to the offensive line. So, the first offensive line unit out was DeJuan Jones at left tackle, Zion Johnson at left guard, Elton Jenkins at center, Tevin Jenkins at right guard, and then Tyree Phillips at right tackle. What an interesting name thrown into the first unit out there. I thought that was cool. And then the second unit, we got Spencer Fano at left tackle, Zach Zinter at left guard, Parker's Brailsford at center, KT Leviston at right guard, that boy KT, and Austin Barber at right tackle. Any surprise there?
Well, Titus Howard not being
no Titus Howard, yeah. Is he not there? Or is he not playing at the moment?
I don't think he's there.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I would assume.
I've seen him at an OTA. I saw him at the one before the draft because he's an enormous man.
Yeah.
So, like, Mike Hall was not there Wednesday, but he was there Tuesday and Thursday. I don't know if Titus Howard was a similar deal or whatever. I don't know. What I would say is it's not a surprise that they are making the rookies sort of do the thing. How many times do we see this thing where we go, well, of course they're not, you don't immediately insert the guy into the starting lineup. You make him earn, and like, they have a reason to do that.
Yeah.
It's fine. And again, right now, given what they're doing, which is really trying to maximize reps and learning and all these other things, great, man, more power to it. Like when you get into August, if we're still doing this, I have some questions. But for now, it makes all the sense in the world. One, Elton Jenkins playing at center is interesting. I did not see him take a single rep at guard. Doesn't mean like could have been the next day. He was at guard the whole time, and we don't know. And I will be curious to see if that is the deal. You know, Tevin Jenkins, to me, you're living a lie, and they know it with that if he's in the starting lineup because you're basically putting him on a clock for how many games he can play. It's like 3.
Yeah.
Before his body's going to break down. And I hate it because he's starting caliber talent, but his body just will not allow him to play. But like, you know, Barber and Brailsford and Fano, one, I like the fact that they are working together as much as possible. And I like the fact that they're making them do the thing. And, you know, do I think it will take an exorbitant amount of time for Spencer Fano to insert himself into the starting lineup? No, he looks fantastic. Now, no pads and all that stuff, but he looks impressive. Brailsford obviously is going to depend on what Jenkins does. So if Jenkins was at guard another day, or if Jenkins is at guard tomorrow, you could see Brailsford in there right away. You know, the right tackle situation, we know whose job it is. And then does it feel a little bit artificial to have Tyree Phillips ahead of Austin Barber? Yeah, but again, right now I don't care because again, I want those guys to work together, and you got to do the whole earn it thing and all that stuff. And Tyree Phillips has been here, so fine. And without pads and all the other stuff, you're worried about execution and doing things right. And obviously, like DeJuan Jones at one point got set off for false starting, and Spencer Fano goes in there. Now, how much does that matter? We'll see. But like, I want those young guys to work together. Obviously, the Browns think a lot of them in terms of what they can be. It's interesting that Zinter's at left guard. I don't love the fact he's the second left guard. I'm hoping they have somebody more there, but we'll see. I mean, maybe he's finally healthy.
Don't we want Zinter to get a hold of a job? Like, don't we want him to ascend a little bit, or at least, you know, play well enough that he's a reserve? I mean, do we want to just keep him where he's at?
Well, I mean, you do the math. How many linemen do you think they're going to keep? 9 or 10?
I would assume 9, but it wouldn't surprise me if they kept 10 because they've got some tackles that they like. So
let's say it's 9. You're going to keep at this point DeJuan Jones. I think he's the leader in the clubhouse for the swing tackle. Spencer Fano is going to stick. Austin Barber is going to stick. Titus Howard's going to stick. That's 4. We're already at 4. Brailsford is going to stick.
Okay.
Elton Jenkins is going to stick.
Got it.
Tevin Jenkins is going to stick.
Got it.
So we're already at what, 7?
Yeah. I'm keeping Zinter over Leviston, over Whippler.
Are you?
Yeah, maybe not Leviston, but Whippler, yeah. Especially if Zinter did some work at center last year.
He did.
He can play inside and outside. He's got a little more meat to him. A little more base, a little more ass. Nothing wrong with that, Pete.
Yeah, Whippler not practicing is not great.
So I thought Whippler was gonzo anyway, and then they went and drafted Brailsford, and I was like, maybe he's sticking around.
Well, obviously it all depends on how Elton Jenkins works, but like as far as showing something in the field, I've seen more from KT Leviston.
Yeah, I get that. I like KT. I like KT at guard. I like that.
I understand the thought process of, well, they drafted Zinter in the 3rd round, but he really needs to get something for him. I think we are at a point. It's a different coaching staff. Obviously, Barry drafted him for a very temporary offensive line situation.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We've seen Barry move off guys quick. Yeah. He moved off Siaki Ika almost immediately. That was a 3rd round pick. I feel like Barry doesn't. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and he gets it out quick. I feel like they're very good at recognizing that.
Well, I mean, they had nothing last year, so they were incentivized to keep Zinter to see if something could work. I think he's fair game in either direction. I think they would love it if he's suddenly good, But if he's not, I don't want. I think they can trade him. It won't be for anything meaningful, but I think they can move
probably
him.
a player swap of another guy on a fringe of another team. Yeah.
Right. But like, I don't think there's an attachment to him. I think there, in fact, I think there is for them to worry about protecting Whippler right this second than I do Zinter, because there are teams out there that are hurting at center. One of them is in the division.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but we're not doing that.
Like if they were to waive Luke Whippler, so long as he can pass a physical, I could see him being in Baltimore by Tuesday. So, like, I don't know that Zinter has that kind of fear at this point. And obviously, they're not moving off these guys right now. But, like, the other one is Leviston. I think if Leviston doesn't make this team, I think he's going to get traded again. There are just not enough bodies out there for teams. I was annoyed. I don't know why this came up to me, but as we're looking at depth charts, I was annoyed that the Rhode Island tackle they had as an undrafted free agent last year is in Pittsburgh. That did irritate me, but nevertheless. So yeah, you sit there and you look at it and you go, I've got 7 guys that I'm pretty sure are already going to make the team.
Yeah.
8 and 9, and then if you get into 10, it gets a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, from those like last 3, those like bottom of the roster guys, though, I feel like Whippler would get the hook before Zinter and before Leviston, because both of those guys can just play more positions. I mean, Whippler's the center, right? And that's it. Like
backup center is not a great place to be. It is not a good place to be in the NFL. Like originally, when I was thinking about this, I thought, oh, great, the Browns will just put Whippler on the practice squad. Problem solved. But again, the way the NFL is currently working, and with teams like the Ravens who need center help, I don't think he's very safe from that standpoint. If the Ravens sort of address that position, or these other teams draft that position, I could see that going back to that thing. So that's a tricky element with that whole thing. And the Browns are going to have to sort of play some gymnastics. Now, it's a great problem to have if everybody stays healthy, but if like Tevin Jenkins goes down, in practice or something, and suddenly you're hurting, like that could be a real issue. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Are you surprised that they're rolling with Jenkins at center to start, or do you think that's more or less because Brailsford's a rookie and Whippler's hurt? Because they kind of
I do think that's an important consideration. But here again, this is the part where I can appreciate Monken's approach. He's not messing around going, well, the rookie can figure it out. Additionally, the reason your point matters is because there's just not that many reps to hand out.
Yeah.
There's Jenkins, Brailsford, and then Kendrick Green, or not Green, whatever
the guy from the Lions too,
Ekuban
or something, Ekagwan, something like that.
Yeah. So they've got
Charles Bentley spoke highly of when we picked him up last year.
Right. So they have 4 guys that can take snaps right now without Whippler. But in terms of if you had to play a game tomorrow, you would put Elton Jenkins at center. And I think that is right now. And maybe this is something people will criticize later and go, well, why'd you mess around with Elton Jenkins at center when ultimately he was going to end up at right guard? But I think for right now, they have to approach this as if they had to play a game tomorrow. And if they had to play a game tomorrow, Elton Jenkins would play center.
Okay. And then, I mean, that's fair. That's reasonable. Austin Barber, I've brought him up a couple times about this specifically. What's that?
I love Austin Barber.
Yeah, I know you do. And I'm telling you, man, we traded up for that kid. We packaged assets to move up to get him, and Andrew Berry doesn't do that often. He's only done that, I want to say 3 or 4 times.
Browns are excited about Austin Barber.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too.
The common refrain I've heard with Austin Barber, and this is true of my own, both talking with people in the building, and then my own impression was like, he's thicker than you think he is. Like, you look at him on tape, you're like, man, he's tall and narrow. And you're like, I don't know. Obviously, my thought process was he's a tackle. Certainly, I still think that's true. But like
Yeah.
you get him, he's a thicker kid than you think he is in terms of like his overall density.
Well, yeah, and he's only going to get bigger. He's only going to get stronger being in the league. I mean, that's just natural progression. My thing with him, Pete, is we've talked about it before. I feel like there is this outside chance that if they ultimately want Jenkins at guard, that there's at least an avenue for Parker Brailsford to get starts this year at some point. Mm-hmm. I think the same could be said of Austin Barber, especially if he shows out well in camp and he plays well. And I mean, you can swing in Titus Howard into right guard. I mean, obviously, it's going to be right, like the antithesis of what you want your right guard to be, but still, like he's got experience. He can play those positions. He's done it at a high level in Houston before. Well, I feel like that's a legitimate possibility that nobody really talks about.
Well, the other sort of thing that Elton Jenkins being at center allows you is to get KT Leviston reps and evaluation at guard right now, which they need to do. They need eyes on him to figure out if this is going to work. Now, you're not going to be able to answer all that stuff until they get pads on, but like if he's not quick enough to cut off guys on his inside gap, or he's having problems in terms of pad level and stuff, like you're going to find out real quick that this isn't working, and they're either going to move him back out or regardless end this project.
Yeah.
Austin Barber, I'm not as in a big hurry to see him. I want to see how he holds up against the physicality. I really like
okay taking your time and letting him ease into things.
Yes. Yeah. It's difficult. It's very difficult to get that Ruben Bain tape out of my head. Ruben Bain used power on him in a way that was like, oof. Now, Ruben Bain's a big, strong kid, and that may be why the Bucs are very happy to have him. But like it was, if
we
this
play
is
them week 2, Pete, maybe we'll wait till week 3 to put Austin out there.
Well, I mean, it's just like, maybe if that is what is happening at the college level, you get worried, and maybe it's just a technique thing and tools and all this other stuff. But like you do worry that like if this is happening against Ruben Bain, and you're going to have to deal against who do they play week 1? Travon Walker, who's all power all the time. There are a lot of guys like that could potentially be problematic. So I'm not in a hurry. Now,
one test is going to be tough regardless because Walker's good, and then Josh Allen's a witch too, man. Jacksonville's got a tough little defense.
Yeah, but like Titus Howard's a big, thick man. He ain't like he doesn't move forward much, but he doesn't move back much either. And then Spencer Fano is athletic. Like, obviously Josh Hines Allen is a very, very, very good. Josh Allen is a very, very good player. And obviously it will be a tricky situation for a rookie in his first ever game. But like tools wise, Fano has the capability to keep up with what he does. Now, Josh Allen has been an absolute bastard against the Browns in the past. So I fully expect a similar return on to that. But like there are just a lot of those power guys in there. And can Barber hold up? Hopefully by the time we get pads on, maybe he'll surprise and be like, I think the Browns are reasonable in their process with Barber. They have to sit there and go, Titus Howard is here. Now, if he gets hurt, all bets are off. Yeah. But like, I'm sure they sit here and go, we've got time. Let's figure this thing out, get him comfortable, not rush him and potentially get him into bad habits and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But, if he can be that right tackle ultimately, which I think he can be, man, they're in a really good spot if they've managed to lock down both tackle spots in this draft.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, ultimately, I would assume that at least to start the year, he's going to be the 4th tackle. Like, DeWand will be the first guy off the bench if somebody goes down.
Yeah, unless
that's just my assumption.
The only scenario where that doesn't happen is DeWand does not come back well from his injury. He looks thin, as thin as DeWand can, but he looks legitimately svelte.
Does he look good, or does he look like he's clinging to the last, bits of his career, and he's,
No, I mean, here's the thing. DeWan Jones has skinny legs. For whatever reason, for a man who's been practically 400 pounds, he had bird legs. Like, you're like, why are his legs like that? Now, it allows him to be pretty graceful in some of the stuff he does, but, like, he's legitimately got smaller legs. But, like, the value of being a backup is if you come in and at least give reliable pass protection, like the offense can plan around you. That's useful. But if like injury again, he gets more bad luck or something, like KT Levinson becomes that guy. Now KT Levinson has more upside as a run blocker. Certainly, he's got explosive power at points. You sit there and every so often he'll do something like, wow, that was impressive. Now he is way more inconsistent as a pass protector and can just outright be out of position and get just completely worked. But yeah, to your point, and so from that standpoint, KT Levinson desperately needs to prove that he's viable at guard if he wants to be on this team. But so right now I have DeJuan Jones as the favorite to be the swing tackle. I think it makes sense right now, but like Austin Barber's got to be able to do that. And if DeJuan were to go down, like Austin Barber could easily be in there right now as he's got experience now on both sides, could easily be that guy. Now it's certainly a better situation the Browns have had, but like I sit here extremely bitter about last year because the Browns did fortify the offensive tackle position last year and just burned through it. Got hurt. Yeah, literally burned right through it.
Yeah, Lucas's foot happened in training camp, right? Yeah, and then
DeJuan Jones got low bridged, and that was it.
Yeah,
and then Jack Conklin just elbow, head, the whole thing,
everything. Yeah, that was just that was a mess. Now, is there, if you could, take out your crystal ball and look in the future, everybody stays healthy, who do you ultimately think lines up as that starting five? Like, who do you think, like, Andrew Berry has in his head is ultimately going to be the five after assembling all these names?
Well, what they'd like to have, I have to believe, is Fano, Johnson, Brailsford, Jenkins, Titus Howard. That has to be the dream. Like, I can't see a better scenario for them if they get that, because I would say Brailsford is good enough to start as a 5th-round pick, which is impressive enough at home, but it allows them to really get the best out of Elton Jenkins. Like, he's really suited. Like, people keep talking about, well, he can go home to left guard. He will be right at home at right guard.
Yeah,
I think it's a really good fit for him. Like, Zion Johnson is there at left guard for a reason. I do not see them giving him all these reps and deciding, well, Elton, you're not going to play center anymore, so we're going to move you to left guard and move Zion Johnson to right guard. I think I've said this all along. Fano and Johnson is like the ideal pairing for the left side there. Crazy athletic.
Yeah.
And then Elton Jenkins at right guard would be great. He can pull. He's got some power to him. Him and Howard are big people. That would be a dream scenario. Now, if they can't get that, then the right guard position becomes the real, the uncertain position, because your opening day lineup is probably Fano, Johnson, Jenkins, and Howard, and you're sitting there holding your breath on the right guard every week, sitting there going, God, I hope he doesn't get hurt, and maybe Leviston can do enough. But then
I was going to ask about KT, because if you look at it, given the way they have the line constructed, I could use like a barroom brawler at right guard. I'd be okay with that. We've got athleticism coming out of our friggin' ears, Pete. I want somebody that's going to drag their knuckles as they walk and make some space. You know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. Now it's just a question of, he has explosive power. Is he going to be better from a 3-point stance? Maybe. Does that fix some of the leverage problems? Perhaps. Is he going to be quick enough? Because there are snaps we can pull up at him at tackle where he gets beat. He's stepping to the inside gap and gets beat to the inside gap. You're like, that can't happen. Can't happen. And so that's the challenge that happens. And that's why I sit here and go, I understand why people think guard fixes a lot of problems for KT Levinson, because they think, oh, he's not very good in space, so less space should help him. But if he's not quick enough off the ball to fix it, then he's just going to get victimized in that exact scenario. So,
yeah, but isn't he more likely to get, whipped by speed and quickness on the edge than he is inside? I mean, there's going to be some witches in the NFL level that are absolute demons inside, but I feel like those guys are few and far between. I mean, every team's got cats on the edge.
Yes, but you can't be your left tackle, you cannot be stepping right as the play design before the snap. This is not pass prediction. This is run block. You are told step right, and he got beat inside like that. The guy beat you to the place you're going like that. like you talk about getting beat across your face. Like not only do you get beat across your face, it's the spot you are stepping to. Like that's where it's a problem. That's where I worry about does his pad level to maximize his leverage, or does he get caught in a situation where he's too busy trying to stand up to get to what is his leverage point, and that allows guys to sneak in underneath. And the problem you run into is there are too many 3-techs and stuff like that who can just slip through. The Browns have a couple of them. Mike Hall is built to do exactly that thing. And if that's the situation, he lines up where KT Leviston a guard, he could slip right through and beat him right off the ball and just already be in the backfield. Now, can you mitigate some of these things? Potentially, but still, that is what I'm looking for in terms of that. If he's stepping to a spot and getting beat to that spot, it ain't going to work. So I'm hoping, and again, he's going to get a whole lot more reps at guard. Hopefully, that is going to allow him to prepare for that and be more technically sound. He comes up with answers with that, and maybe he and Coach Warhop figure out some things that are going to be better. Maybe he drops, I don't expect him to drop a bunch of weight, but maybe he maximizes his body composition in a way that's going to maximize his quickness. Hopefully he gets a little bit more flexible in some of those things, and maybe he can answer those. Because if he can do that thing and still have the explosive power where you're at some points you just watch him particularly with his upper body, just grab somebody correctly and just move them out of the way and be like, here's a hole. Then like all of a sudden you're like, this is really interesting and this could be fun. In the fact that you have 2 guys, potentially 3 guys on the left side of the line that can all pull around, get up in space, and attack guys on the move, while this guy is just clearing space for a runner. And hopefully Titus Howard can, and if Titus Howard is paired with Titus Johnson, or with Titus Howard, KT Leviston and Titus Howard are paired up, maybe we can get a little bit more push out of Titus Howard that would also help the situation, even if it's just double teaming a guy to the second level and hopefully washing out backers from the play and allowing those pullers to get out in space and cut stuff up. Because like you can find plays where Quinshon Judkins is running to a giant hole that KT Leviston is largely responsible for.
Well, speaking of which, my man is back in team drills, and he looks quick. He looks good. Are you surprised by this?
Who's your man in this scenario?
Quinshon.
Oh,
right.
He was unbelievable. I cannot state this enough. Like I'm not going to throw a certain reporters who suggested that him being in a walking boot at some point was dooming him for the season. But I saw quote unquote injury experts who prognosticate this stuff being like Quinshon Judkins is going to be impacted early in the season. And then I saw at least one of those guys go back and go, he's fine. He will be just fine. Yeah. I was blown away. I cannot understate this because I know I wasn't the only one who had this reaction. We sort of Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson wasn't participating. So he and a coach were working on the side. They were walking through some stuff. And you're like, okay, yeah, more of the same stuff. He looks good, bouncing around and doing some stuff, but he's not really
they're keeping him out
active. And then all of a sudden they go to quarterbacks and running backs do a choice route drill where they read backers or a couple coaches giving them a read, and then the quarterback and the running back react and do their thing. All of a sudden you're like, okay, Quinshon's catching a few balls. He's just going to catch and jog. And all of a sudden you see him catch, turn, and accelerate. You're just like, vroom. You're like, whoa, that's pretty good. And all of a sudden they go through the ACT drill and Quinshon's still in there. And you're like, okay, well, they're going to whistle it dead anyway. All of a sudden they switch to a competition period and you're like, Quinshon's still in there. They turn and hand him the ball and he just takes off, cuts off that right. And you're like, oh my God. It was crazy how good he looked for.
It makes no sense.
If you did not know he hurt himself, you would have no idea. You'd be like, he's never been hurt. He's been fine the whole time. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. He looked great. And I loved Todd Monken's very short quip, just look good, didn't he? That was fun. They just let him compete, and he looked fantastic. And you're like, all of a sudden going, man, the fact that this was May 20th, and you're like, wow, he's already here. He's going to be full go.
He's going to be ready. Hell yeah.
Now they are sort of hedging by saying, well, he's dealing with some soreness after he goes one of this, so we're going to hold him out a little bit.
Fine.
I suspect he's going to be fully unleashed at veteran minicamp, and then he's going to be ready to go first day training camp, and there's going to be no question about Quinshon Judkins. He is, dude. Part of it is like he doesn't look like he was ever hurt. He looks strong as hell. He's huge, and then you see the speed. Like Coach Riz, who's a coach, said said that he thought he looked more athletic than before the injury. Now, that's probably a little hyperbolic, but I understand the sentiment because you just like blown away by how athletic it looks. And it was just a game changer relative to that practice in terms of what that is. And that's where I sit here and go, where I was like reading the thing. Well, Denzel Boston looks like the best offensive player in OTAs, regardless of position. And I sit there and go, okay, well, it's not one of the quarterbacks. The linemen don't have pads on, so I don't know what you're reading into that. So, and Harold Fannin didn't practice, at least for the one OTA. Maybe he's been in others, but he's not practicing. So who else is out there that's going to look good? It's going to be receivers. So, but to say, I would say Denzel Boston does look promising. Looks good. Looks like he belongs. And I like the fact that he's being utilized on some deep stuff. But like,
that's all you want in OTAs, man. Give me the pass the eyeball test. Pass the eyeball test. Get better every day.
So I'm hoping Sampson will be back out there, and he was goofing around doing some stuff after practice, which makes me think he's not out for any extended period of time. But like, I think Raheem Sanders is interesting too. So like, it's very difficult to quantify the lift that Quinshon Judkins suddenly flying around gives the team and everybody who's sort of looking at it going, oh, okay.
Well, and that's the thing, dude. I absolutely love our running back room. I love it. I still maintain that Dylan Sampson is going to be the player that has the biggest leap from last year's class to this year. I think he's going to get a little bit stronger. He's going to have way more space and way more help. And he's going to flash. He's going to make plays. But Judkins is a dude. He was really all we had last year. Yeah. And he was still shredding teams. Until teams realized that all we had to do was sell out and stop Quinshon, he was killing people, man. He was fantastic to watch.
I could be wrong, but I think like 4 of his first 5 games that he played, he had like a 30-yard run, 30-plus yard run.
Oh, yeah. He's got
all of a sudden everybody's like,
speed, man.
And then all of a sudden we got to a point where everybody's like, no, we're not doing this anymore. And suddenly 7.67 defenders in the box.
Put 10 guys in the box.
Yeah.
And have one safety cover all your receivers.
So obviously the line has so much to prove, but I just think the fact that they should be able to execute a wider range of things should put more doubt into defense. In other words, this group has to prove they can move guys off the ball. Todd Monken has said he wants to be able to put a fullback in and run, power and all this stuff and do all those things. And I totally get it, but they've got to prove it. Spencer Fando has to prove he can do big boy stuff like that. If it's Brailsford, he has to prove he can do that. Elton Jenkins has to prove he's healthy doing that. All those guys have to prove that they can do that. But like Spencer Fando doesn't have to prove it, he's athletic. Zion Johnson does not have to prove he's athletic. Those guys can get out in space, and that alone should change the dynamic, at least force defenses to at least consider where the Browns are trying to go with the football, which hopefully creates more space in the offense. And if you can do things like wide zone and pin and pull, then you can also do play action off wide zone and get the big stretch boots and all that stuff, which will hopefully widen things out a little bit more. And all of a sudden, Judkins can run up the middle a little bit with more frequency than they could last year, whereas last year it felt like the Browns could run 3 plays because they just were not athletic, and teams could just sit all their guys in these 2 gaps and be like, okay, good luck. And
last year was so bad. Think about the fact that like we see flashes in Jamari Thrash because he caught a pass. He ran an NFL route and he caught a pass and he got a first down against the Dolphins. We're like, yeah, like it looks good. It looks like it should look. That's how bad they were last year, that anybody doing some standard bare minimum thing was like noteworthy. It was like, oh, he had a nice game. He did this. He did that. I'm expecting a completely different thing this year. I mean, we just got to go back a few years, man, when Stefanski was humming. It was first down after first down and sustained drive after sustained drive. You remember that Dallas game in 2020? We had 3 guys top 100 yards, I thought, between Chubb and
And then we've got to see how this plays out. But like, if Fannin and Judy and Concepcion and Boss are on the field, and we'll see what we get with these other guys. If it's Carson Ryan, if it's Joe Royer, whatever, if they want to put if they want to put Barber around there as a jumbo tight end, whatever, but if they can just put 4 guys out there and the defense has to go, oh, we got to cover these guys, and then that should also create more space. If they have to also play further back, there's going to be more space. So, like, I have reason to believe, and obviously the quarterback position is going to dictate so much, but just those upgrades in terms of both athleticism on the line and then the skill they've added to the room, you've got to believe that there's going to be more space for a guy like Judkins, where they are not staring at a wall and going, slam your way through it and figure it out. Yeah. And if he has space, he's like, again, the thing that stood out to me so much about Judkins last year was his vision, which I did not think he had in the way that he showed, and then his ability to basically just his agility and stuff to basically just get to where he wanted to go without issue. Like, it's one thing to be like, I can see the hole, but I'm just not athletic enough to get there how I want to get there. Judkins surpassed my expectations on that and was able to crease plays where you're like, wow, that was like legitimate good stuff. And I'm not going to get in the compare him to Nick Chubb thing, because it's not fair. I think he's going to be his very own unique dude, but I am very bullish on how good he can be. And as you and I've discussed, we're both high on Dylan Sampson in a world where there's space. And again, I'm curious to see what it looks like with pads, but I've liked what I've seen from Raheem Sanders to this point. He catches the ball more than he did this in college too. He caught the ball well in college, catches the ball well in practice. He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He
ran super tough at the end of the year.
Well,
like I look at that years, third running back, and
you go back a couple of years at Arkansas, he had like 1,600 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was legitimately a good back. So again, all these guys should benefit from space, and we'll see what that ends up looking like. But like, if that is a thing, if the Browns can consistently run the ball or just have better success than they did last year, it's going to make the quarterback it's going to make their job so much easier.
Agreed. So let me ask you this. Now, we touched on a little bit earlier, and we've got the mandatory mini camp coming up soon enough, so we'll see all this stuff. But Denzel's usually at OTAs. Delpit's usually at OTAs, okay? It is a little concerning because I understand they're going to keep – I want to say they're going to keep the spirit of the defense, but they're definitely going to make changes. They're definitely like he's – Rudy's going to have his own stamp on things.
So, we've already seen a little bit, but yes.
Can you elaborate? Like, do you think?
Well, I've seen more. I've already seen 2 more high than I think I saw all of last year.
Okay.
Now they still do single high, but like, one, they're going to use more safeties than they more regular than they did last year. It's not to say the Browns didn't. They used 3 safeties a lot.
Yeah.
They're clearly making that a priority. But so how can you best utilize these guys? I think it's going to change how they play some coverage stuff, come up with more ways to play coverage, hopefully some disguises and things of that nature. I've seen, I would term it as rolling to motion, but we'll see what that ultimately looks like. I'm excited to see what happens when you've got Delpit and McNeil Warren and Hickman all on the field at the same time. But like, I'm not too concerned about Ward and Delpit, only because corner depth is not existent. It's not there. I mean,
keep Denzel in bubble wrap until the season starts.
Well, it's just so after D'Angelo Ross, and they got rid of one of them today with an injury waiver to
Nicholson,
Carlos,
I think,
who was replaced with Tyron Herring, who's another guy who's never played any snaps. They've got him coming in. They've got Michael Coach Jr., undrafted rookie. They've got Nate Evans, undrafted rookie. And then they've got Dom Jones, who's undrafted from a year ago and has like 50 total snaps on defense. So if that, I think the Browns I wrote about this today. I think if the Browns get themselves in a pinch, they may have to go out and get something. But for the moment, they have a lot of incentive to get as much of these guys on the field as they can and evaluate and teach and all this stuff like crazy. So Denzel Ward not being there, it's not a huge deal. Likewise, with Delpit, McNeil Warren is a rookie. He needs all the reps he can get. Hickman obviously has room to improve. And then you've got Donovan McMillan, who I really like, Christopher Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought in Zion Washington as an undrafted rookie this year.
What about Miles Bryant that they got from Houston? Is he a nickel? I've seen him listed as a safety. Is he just kind of a, he can do it all a little bit?
Right now, somebody named Miles is going to play slot, and it's not Garrett. It seems like those are the guys getting the most run at that spot in Miles Harden and Miles Bryant.
Right.
What I find interesting is that coinciding with the move to all these safeties is, to your point, even though Miles Bryant is very short, he's a thick kid. He's like 5'9", 190 pounds or something, allegedly. But he has safety experience. Miles Harden plays corner kind of like a safety in terms of his willingness to be physical.
He's built like a safety too.
Yes. So it's almost like a further extension of this idea that they have this many bodies that can theoretically contribute in that capacity. Like when Miles Harden came out, I sort of looked at him. Who's the dude who was with the Browns who was really good for a minute before going to Houston?
Before who?
Before going to Houston.
MJ Stewart.
Yes, he reminded me of him.
Yeah,
so
I like MJ Stewart.
Yes, and I was very bitter that he went to Houston State. But so like in that sense, like if you want to look at it this way, yes, they are technically slot corners, but like the Browns basically have two corners on the field, and everything else is a safety of some variety. But again, so without Delpit there, it allows them to get eyes on. And again, they're not married to any of these guys. They need these guys to work. I really like what McMillan could theoretically be. Chris Edmonds has been here a couple years 3. They need him to start doing something. Zion Washington, the kid from Boise State, really interesting from a physical tool standpoint, but hasn't really done much. Mm-hmm. But it's just the other part that's sort of interesting to me in this whole thing is that Ephraim Banda has basically handpicked the entire safety room, save for Delpit, except Delpit is the guy he modeled the other guys all after.
Yep.
So, I'm kind of curious to see how that ultimately works, but like that seems to be what this defense is going to be. Since I've written about this for tomorrow, the shortest guy of the safeties that's not Daniel Thomas is Ronnie Hickman, who's 6'1.5". Everybody else is taller than that, including Delpit 6'2 plus, Edmonds 6'2 plus, Manuel McNeil Warren 6'2 plus, Donovan McMillan 6 foot and 5'8". It is a tall group of safeties. So that's the other part that sort of stands out to me, and again feeds into the idea of they are modeled after Grant Delpit, who's like 6'2", 210, somewhere in that neighborhood, 205, somewhere in that neighborhood. But like they are all similar to that. And so you've got a group of 5 of them. And look, if you're going to do this thing, which they are clearly committed to doing, you have to have 5 guys active on game to be able to run it. It's the same way if you were going to run 13 personnel, which obviously all these teams are doing, you have to have 5 tight ends active on every game day to be able to run it. Otherwise, one guy gets hurt, you are suddenly in a real world of hurt.
Yeah, you don't have a playbook.
And not only that, McMillan and Edmonds and Zion Washington, theoretically, if he was make the team, I think he's more like a practice squad guy. But regardless, they're going to play on specials too. Yep. That's the other part of it. Like all those guys play specials. So, yeah, it's a big deal. So, I certainly, if you're a coach, and I am, then you want all your guys there all the time. You want everybody there every day, all the time, because peace of mind, if nothing else. But for what the defense is doing, certainly I understand the thought of, well, they're tweaking some things. I'd like Grant Delpit to be there. I'd like Denzel Ward to be there. But given that they are keeping a lot, I am less concerned with the fact that, like, Wednesday at OTAs, the Browns were missing 5 guys who are going to be not there, who are going to be major parts of the defense.
That's half the defense.
Yeah. And Alex Wright was not participating. So, like, they need to take advantage of all the reps they can get, teach those guys. So when the veterans do show up, that they're ready to step in and be ready to go. But they're going to demand a lot of reps and a lot of time. But they've got to figure out the depth at those various positions, especially for corner safety, because those are the two. Corner's not really changing so much. I mean, maybe they'll do some different things, but like they're being less reliant on corner this year than they have been. But obviously, Ward and Tyson Campbell are everything. But they are leaning super heavily into the safety position, which is a notable change. Not like that they haven't done it, but like this is going to be such a big element of the defense, which is a little bit of a departure from Jim Schwartz. And Efren Banda was the guy who handpicked these guys, has been promoted to passing game coordinator. So like him and Mike Rutenberg, like it is those two.
They're hip and hip, yeah.
They're really going at this thing and trying to make this thing work. So if it works, it will be different. And those guys are getting a lot of credit. And I could see a world where now Efren Banda gets his defensive coordinator job somewhere else, which I'd hate to lose. But that's just how it goes. I mean, that he's got the same job Rutenberg had in Atlanta this past year. Mm-hmm. Before he got his call up. So if it works, like it sets him up to get that next job. And if it doesn't, I'll be curious to see if the Browns sort of bail on this idea and go a different direction. Now, McNeil Warren's not going anywhere. They may, whether Delpit's signed or not remains to be seen. But they could then pull the plug and decide, we're going back to corners or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we wrap up, we only got a few more minutes. So the NCAA ruled Brennan Sorsby to be ineligible for this season, and I don't know what his options are at this point. Is he gonna sue the NCAA and try to make this happen, or is he just gonna go into the supplemental draft?
He is already suing the NCAA. That has not processed yet. I think he's in court next week for that.
Yeah.
Texas Tech is going to appeal because Texas Tech may or may not have agreed to already give him $5 million, but she already has. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to see if they can make this work. Yeah. I saw a brief statement from, somebody may have been the athletic director, basically like saying something to the effect of, this is the new landscape. We sort of have to deal with gambling and all this stuff, which really came across weak, not quite as weak as Sorsby being like, look, man, I bet on my own team to feel closer to the team. It's a shame Pete Rose never playing.
I needed juice.
I think he's already admitted he bet on his own team. Yeah. Like I think he's completely boned. Not only do I think he's boned, I think he's getting to the supplemental draft. I think he's getting to the supplemental draft. I think he's getting a year from the league. I think he's going to enter the supplemental draft and then get a year-long suspension from the league. I do not see a way around that.
Well, let me ask you this, because I was actually talking about this with somebody, and I couldn't remember the last time that it happened. But can the NFL punish somebody for something they did when they weren't employed by an NFL franchise?
Terrell Pryor sold his own stuff, and then the college tried to get him for impermissible benefits for selling his gold pants or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He declared for the draft. He declared for the draft. The supplement was he? He was a supplemental.
Yeah,
was he not?
Yeah, he was.
And then he got, I think, 4 or 6 games.
Okay.
For something that isn't not illegal at all in the NFL. At all.
Yeah, or taboo, because that's the whole NFL. Thing. You bet. Yeah.
Whereas the notable difference is what Sorsby did is illegal in the NFL and is the cardinal sin of sports rules.
Yeah.
The NFL will let you beat up a woman and all these other things, but pro sports look, man.
Don't go after the shield now. You can go after your lady. You leave that shield alone, boy.
I mean, listen, you raised up Pete Rose, the Black Sox, like they are deadly serious about this. And yes, it looks incredibly it looks incredibly bad that the NFL is in bed with gambling, but like you cannot. They will get absolutely crushed if they do not come out super hard on this, and they already have pressed it. They suspend their own players who did not bet on their own games for a year. just for doing it in an NFL facility. So where else can they have nowhere to go?
I don't understand. I mean, obviously it happened, right? I don't understand how the NFL can legally punish a guy for a rules infraction when he's not an NFL player.
What do you mean?
I feel like that's got to be such a slippery slope, no?
Okay, you're a teacher.
Well, no, I mean, I get it. I'm not saying, oh, you're wrong, Pete. I'm saying that's surprising to me. This country is all about legal loopholes, about getting out of trouble and shit. And I'm floored by that. I'm surprised by that.
I mean, like, your job, any job has rules that you can't get boozed up or whatever at work. Like, it's technically legal, but you get fired.
Well, yeah, but that stuff makes you like not hireable. He's still going into the NFL. Like, he's still going to get drafted. Somebody's going to hire him to play quarterback for them, and the NFL can be like, well.
But they still have the ability to dictate how they want to, because they are a governing body of sorts. They're not punishing him legally. They're punishing him relative to a higher practice. It's no different than, like, if you try to apply at a job and they, or you got arrested and charged with a DUI, but aren't actually guilty for it. You can still lose your job over it. Like, that's.
I mean, yeah, but what we're talking about is the job hiring you and then suspending you. Like,
I mean, it's a weird. It's a weird.
Yeah, it just seems weird.
But I mean, like, but I guess from the NFL standpoint is they can sort of sit there and go, well, we're making sure you're not getting hired by virtue of that.
Yeah. Yeah, which is, I think that would be the more aggressive step that they would take, is to be like, the whole blackball thing. Just put it out. Like, we're not bringing this into our league. Like, we need to send a message, like that sort of thing. I mean, look, I'm with you. We talked about it last week. I don't think he's a good enough quarterback to take this big a gamble. I get the talent. The talent's through the roof. The talent's really nice. I don't think he's that good at the position where the talent outweighs. Like, I'm sorry. You have face of an NFL franchise and you have no self-control? None?
Which is why it's always fascinating that people are like, yeah, the Browns should totally draft him. The team that drafted Johnny Manziel, who had no self-control or impulse control.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
It's a disaster when it happened. But, like, I will be curious to see how the NFL handles this. Obviously, I think whether they just announce it beforehand and saying, listen, man, you can use a supplemental pick, but he's getting a year, and they say that out front in public, or they basically say quietly, listen, man, he's going to get a year, so approach this however you want in terms of how you want to spend draft capital. But either way, I would be stunned if he gets anything less than that. I'll be honest, it would not surprise me if he got more. I think a year is the safe answer. I think it allows them to sort of make a big statement that should theoretically drop demand enough that will drop him relative to the news cycle. If it's like a 4th round pick, it's not a huge, I mean, it will still be a story, but if it's a 2nd round pick, like, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, not just that. The worst thing that could happen for the league is for the kid to get rewarded, for him to get drafted with a high draft pick,
$10 million.
Embrace him. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the other part. And obviously it's not a thing that the NFL should really be involved in, but they're going to punish him for the fact that he got $5 million for nothing, because he didn't play. So,
well, he'll have to get that back. No, like, he can.
I don't know that. I think Texas Tech were so desperate to get him that they negotiated and basically needed him the money. Now, I would have thought this is because I thought the same thing. I thought it was they figured, well, it requires, he played X amount of games and did all this stuff, because that's how a lot of these contracts are structured. Yeah. But I think Texas Tech got so far over their skis to win this kid that they basically said, no, here's the money.
Just
no
give him what he
question
wants.
asked. And all of a sudden, that's part of the reason. Now, obviously, Texas Tech is also just wants to win football games, and they think if they have Sorsby on their roster, even if he's suspended for a couple of games, they are a national championship contender. Yeah. But still, somebody with theoretically out $5 million is a bad deal. And that's the other part. The last part about this is, if I'm Sorsby, I'm getting every bit of potential dirt out there, because if not, if somebody has that much money to give you, they will find whatever you've got and then expose you and use it against you later. So this story could have legs for a while. So yeah, I want nothing to do with it. I really intriguing kid in terms of his talent. I thought he needed to go to your college. I thought Texas Tech was going to be a great situation for him. But in the supplemental draft, with what is ultimately going to, I cannot imagine anything less than a year suspension. I have no interest. I will wait for the 2027 draft.
Yeah. Well, look, for the kid personally, him sitting for a year and learning and developing is probably the best thing for him at the NFL level.
But not if he's
suspended. He's not even there.
Nope.
You know, he's just not playing. He's away from the game for a year, and
he'll have to find something to fill his time, which he could just fire up the app.
There's a lot of apps available.
Balls and strikes, baby. Let's go. Or what was it like? We found out it was like Turkish women's basketball or something. He was betting something, just unhinged gambling behavior.
Yeah, I used to know a guy in Florida that would bet on overseas ping pong all night long. Yeah, he had like a system. He made money. I still don't understand his system, but god damn it, I give him credit. He found his market.
Everybody's got a system.
Well, either way, hey guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. It's an absolute pleasure every Tuesday for both of us. Thank you to the OBR streaming network for hosting us. Guys, I say it every week, but you got to check out OBR.com. I'm sure if you've been following us long enough, I'm sure you're a part of it. I'm sure you're insiders, but if you're not, definitely get over there and check it out. The insider forums are great. All the articles cranking out. Barry, Pete, Fred, Lane, everybody, man. Jack Duffin doing great work. Mike Keeps the man. You name it, guys. So get over to the OBR, check it out. And Peter, it is always a pleasure, my good sir. I will see you next Tuesday, big guy. Thank you all very, very much. Good night and go Browns.